All right, welcome everyone to the channel. I'm Cody.
And I'm Bree. And in today's video, we decided we wanted to have a little chit chat about something that's kind of been coming up in our relationship a bit more recently, and that's vulnerability. So, this topic is it's difficult, but once you get over that hump of it being difficult and you start to break down certain barriers, I feel like it takes things to another level.
Mm-hmm.
So, first off, what would you say your definition of vulnerability is?
Really? Well, it kind of ties into trust, like being completely open and honest and trusting with your most intimate, I guess, secrets, being completely open
Right.
with no reserve.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, I would kind of define it as kind of exposing the parts of you that you most try to keep hidden.
Yeah.
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 So
yeah.
pretty much, yeah, I guess the same thing.
Yeah.
But
It's a little more succinct, but yeah.
Yeah.
How would you say it looks and kind of feels for you when you're being vulnerable?
So for me, I would say being vulnerable is extremely uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I'm having to really push past certain things to voice certain emotions or feelings or wants or needs, and it literally feels like a battle within my own head.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, being vulnerable is not the easiest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that I kind of equate vulnerability with weakness.
Okay.
And that's really hard for me to, because I know that it's not logically, but it feels like being weak to cry or talk about your emotions and all this, that, and the third. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I kind of have the opposite view for that. To me, it feels like a strength.
Yeah.
To let yourself go like that.
Yeah.
And you know, you're right. It is kind of like a battlefield in your head. But the crazy thing is, it's you that's knocking down your own walls.
Right.
It's like you're up in your castle in your high tower, and you're knocking down your own walls to get up to the field of, I guess, openness or whatever.
Right.
And you're yeah.
Breaking down those.
You're breaking down those walls and getting past them.
I also think that it's important when you're deciding to open up and be vulnerable that you have a partner or you're telling somebody that you trust.
Oh yeah. That's
Because,
key.
Yeah.
You kind of need that.
I think that's actually very important and why I even feel comfortable saying certain things or talking about certain things is because I actually trust you.
Okay.
You know.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same to you. It's not easy being open and vulnerable. Even for me, you know, I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve. You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna know how I feel.
But I really like that about you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you know, if I'm sad, I'm gonna be crying, and I don't really care who sees. And if I'm mad, I'm gonna be mad. But I try to be in balance with all of that.
Right.
Of course, but if it's okay, let's say if there's something I really need to talk about, I'm just gonna open up and talk to you about it.
Right.
With just immediately, and I need to work on that myself because that can require delicate timing. You need to be kind of good with the timing and not just pop up out of nowhere with
certain topics if they're really serious.
Yeah, exactly. Which you know I can do because I want to get it off my chest and get it out there. Yeah.
And that also kind of leads me to another point in this is kind of going to sound a little bit weird, but making sure that the other person kind of has your consent, or making sure that the other person is ready to hear whatever you might be having to say, because I know that there are times when you might be wanting to talk about something serious and I just don't want to.
Okay.
and I tell you, let's talk about it later, or
Right.
let's put it off, and because like sometimes I'm literally just not in the headspace to receive certain things,
Right.
or like have certain deep conversations.
Right.
So I think that that's also an important aspect of this too.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're able to tell me that, because I need to be. I like it when you're very blunt and
Yeah.
open with me, so I know, like, hey, it's not time to talk about this. Let's talk about it later, and just be honest with me about that. And
Right.
that's something I appreciate that you're able to do, because I'm not very good at reading in between the lines
Right.
at
yeah.
all. You need to be very direct with me, otherwise it's gonna go over my head.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's important, and I feel like some people, like, let's say like they're not in the mood to talk about something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some people will like lash out sometimes,
Oh yeah.
even if they're not even like that's their intention. But if you're like, hey, the other day you made me feel some kind of way because of this, this, and that, and then if I lash out at you and be like, you need to be quiet, or
Yeah.
something crazy,
Mm-hmm.
that's a defensive response.
Yeah.
And
That can happen, especially if they're not ready to hear what you have to say.
yeah, right.
And that all comes down to timing as well, but also reading the other person.
Yeah. And making sure that like lines of communication are clear and open.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to be made to feel bad about this, or.
And you got to be very open about that as well, making sure that the other person knows that what your intention is about this talking about the subject, and you're not out there to hurt them,
Right?
or
You're not.
to
Yeah.
demean them, or you need to be very direct and say, hey, I want to talk about this. This is why I feel this way. This is where I'm coming from. How do you think? What do you think about this? Where are you coming from? And you can mix your two realities together.
Right.
And come to a consensus.
Come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a interesting question I had. Like, do you think it's possible to be too vulnerable with someone else? Like, even if it is somebody you trust, obviously I think you could be too vulnerable if it's like you're just letting your information and yourself out there. I think that personally. Maybe you don't, but
Okay.
do you think it's possible to be too vulnerable?
Well, I would say yes.
Okay.
But I do think it's good to be. You got to be careful, because you want to protect yourself as well, but you don't want to overprotect yourself. If you want to have an actual, real relationship with other people, with friends around you, with just regular old people you run into the street, it's okay to be open and vulnerable with them, because that's going to open themselves to you.
Right. Create a pathway.
Yeah, and a lot of times other people need to see that you're able and willing to be out there in your vulnerability, for them to be like, okay,
back.
This is someone I can actually talk with a little bit, and we can actually have a real dialogue that's not surface level.
Right.
Because me personally, I hate small talk, and
Same. Yeah.
I hate it. It's terrible. It's shallow. It's simple. It's meaningless.
Goes nowhere. Yeah.
It's useless in my opinion. If you're gonna talk to me about something you really care about, you're passionate about, how you're really feeling.
Yeah.
And we'll have a real discussion.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I like to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see that in the way that you react or you move with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're more vulnerable than I am when meeting new people.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah.
I tend to be very kind of tight and kind of, my thing like with me is, once I have to read your energy first to make sure you're not a threat.
You're safe.
I'm safe. Yeah, and I feel like you're not gonna, I guess, attack me like emotionally or something.
Yeah. I'm like a golden retriever. I'm pretty friendly with most people, unless I get an obvious sign that you're sketchy.
Right.
Or someone I don't really need to talk with or something. I don't know.
And so I feel like with me, I think that I've pushed past a level of like regular protective mode, and I feel like it's a little bit too shut down. So I have to kind of figure out how I can start opening those channels up a bit more so that I can be putting myself out there more so that I can make more connections with other people. Because
Yeah.
I always, like, there's this common thing with me whenever I meet new people. They always say, oh, I thought you were going to be, like, so mean. Like, I thought you were going to be, like, you don't talk and blah, 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 blah. But then, like, once I'm like, okay, you're cool. I can talk to you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're such a nice person. This, that, and the third. It's
Yeah.
like, but
You
when
know-
people initially read me, it's like, boom, stay away.
Well, I mean, they're seeing your walls that you have up, and they're intimidated by that.
yeah.
That's
yeah.
kind of your aura. It's very closed off and very protective of yourself.
Of my energy. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and it's people will read that instantly and be like, okay, she doesn't want to talk.
Yeah, and then I feel like people kind of snowball that in their head because that also triggers a lot of insecurities in them, and it's like
Yeah.
it becomes a bigger thing than.
Then it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So.
yeah, because I mean, once people really get to know you, they love you. You're an awesome person. You have a lot to give to other people with who you are.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I'm serious.
I
You
know,
do.
yeah.
You do, and a lot of people at first glance, I don't think, see that when they first meet you.
Right, and I have to learn how to like consciously stop doing that because I don't like that. That's my initial read, like
Mhm.
when you first meet me. So
Yeah.
I have to learn how to figure that out.
Okay. Would you say that was a learned behavior?
I think that I've always like emotionally, because it's like I feel like when I was way younger, like elementary, maybe middle school, I wasn't like that at all. But as I got
Mhm.
older, that kind of came more into play.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I know what caused that, but I don't really want to talk about it. But yeah, it's still like I still have to kind of unlock those levels within
Okay.
myself.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair. All right. Why is vulnerability necessary in a relationship?
Okay, so I don't really think you can have a true relationship without vulnerability because, as I was saying, like when you're not vulnerable, that means that there's like wall after wall and wall in
Okay.
front of who you actually are as a person.
Yeah.
So if those walls are up and you're trying to be in a relationship with a person, they might be meeting a barrier
Yeah.
constantly and they're not able to actually get to know who you are like on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like stuff that doesn't happen in a couple months. It's like even just like
it
now.
takes forever.
Yeah. We're about 8 years into this relationship and there are still things that are like
We're unpacking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even realize things are a vulnerability until you actually do work on yourself.
Mhm.
You don't realize this is a trigger and that's why I have this barrier. This is why I have that barrier up and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like people might be pressing your buttons all the time and you don't even realize it, but
And you may not realize you're being reactive
reactive
to it
exactly
as well. Yeah. And that'd be another turnoff
Right.
that people would have against
Right.
people who are like that when they see. They might be seeing you as overly aggressive or like almost attacking them
Sure.
for something that in their mind is not
A big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that happens with people all the time.
Yeah.
It's a common thing, I would imagine. It's one of the reasons why we got to get down to the meat and potatoes of who we are
Right.
and figure that out within ourselves, figure it out as a couple,
Mm-hmm.
figure out in relationship to other people, and it's just
Build relationships like that are honest and open and
yes,
real.
and genuine.
Right.
Yeah, and not being fake, not putting on a mask,
Right.
not putting up your walls.
And that's another thing that I think like maybe our generation and newer generations kind of might be struggling with is our society like as a whole is very like materialistic, very
Mhm.
surface level. If you don't have a certain amount of this, that, or the third, then I'm going to see you as unworthy type
Right.
of things. And so this society, it really breeds you to be like have these walls up. It
Mhm.
breeds you to kind of be tougher so that you can kind of navigate those attacks on your character that are really just superficial and to me meaningless.
Okay.
But yeah, being bred in this type of environment, in the, I would just say like the West, I guess, or American environment, it's, you have to actively, as an adult or whatever point you are in life, go back and undo some programming.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's like layers of stuff packed on that you might not have even realized you took on as like a teenager or as a child. And, you know, just from seeing certain images online of women or men or whatever, you know, there's like little things kind of embedded. Oh, this is what beauty is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
This is what success looks like.
It's like a little fish hooks that get in your brain, and those topics are tugging you in different directions.
That
and
is like, that imagery is
sorry, that's
that like literally made my brain hurt.
Oh no. Okay, that
But
might
I
be a
get
little
what you're
cringy.
saying.
Well, it's literally pulling you to think that way.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That was a little.
A little bit morbid.
You guys get what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, and you got to learn to get past that. And you know, I guess that's part of growing up, and that's probably something a lot of people have to do as they grow up, is unlearn and relearn how to live.
Right.
How to live in a genuine life, I guess. That's
Yeah.
that works.
That's a bit more full, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like,
Because you're going to be depressed otherwise.
I was just about to say that I think that's why there's so much anxiety and depression and mental illness, because we're like, there's like a root to every person. Everybody has like this pure ball of who they are, like their essence. And then like as you get older, like layers get put on top of that ball.
It's like we're in a labyrinth and you got to find yourself.
Right.
And people are getting lost in the labyrinth of life. And
Yeah,
they're not able to find who they are.
and the further away you get from that, the harder it is to come back. And the further away you get, the more you yearn for it. But I feel like some people might not realize that's what they're even yearning for.
Yeah.
It's like their inner child.
Yeah, and well, they don't do I guess you could say the shadow work on themselves to figure out the stuff they need to figure out and come back to who they are.
Yeah.
A lot of times society pulls you to cover up your hurts and materiality.
Yes.
Or
it's like Band-Aids.
or you know little comforts like food, materials, flashy new cars, new houses, you know, and stuff that you can't really afford, not in today's market. And you know, you get the stuff, but you feel bad afterwards.
Yeah,
and
you
don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah,
and it's you're getting pulled in the wrong direction and getting more and more lost in the labyrinth.
I heard somebody say something really interesting where they were saying how there are some people that like strive to be like celebrity status. They strive to have all the money, the cars, the clothes, the women, whatever. And he was saying that there was, you know, that whole phrasing that like you have to sell your soul in order to be famous. So okay, so let's say you're a regular person, right?
Yeah.
And along the way, you have to maybe backstab a little. You might have to cheat a little. You might have to do this person dirty. And then you get there, and you're finally at the top. You've reached every single goal that you've ever wanted. You got the cars, clothes, women, money. All of it's in abundance. But then your character, your inside is black.
Yeah.
And now you've got all the money. Now you're buying things constantly to try to get back down to that heart of the person who you were before it all.
I see.
Yeah,
so it's a character issue.
Yeah.
Where their character's tarnished when they're at the top.
And it
can be at
least.
It
can be, yeah. And yeah, so it's like, I feel like we as a societal whole need to start being more vulnerable and stop putting so much importance on material things.
Oh yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, you know, the last of Us could happen and the world could end, and all you have left is like your family, possibly if you don't get eaten by zombies.
If you're lucky, yeah.
But yeah, it's like, are those connections whole? It's like, going on a tangent here, but when COVID happened and people were stuck in the house,
Yeah.
with their husbands and wives, with their children, and the depression was going up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the alcoholism was going up.
Divorces through the roof.
What does that kind of tell you? Like, you were so distracted by your work life, you were so distracted by going to school, your kids going to school or whatever, you weren't really connecting with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And those connections got so far away that when you were forced to be back in front of each other, you couldn't handle it. Like, that's crazy.
I know.
So
I think it was really a necessary thing, the whole COVID. That's as hard as that's to say with all the deaths that happened, but it opened people's eyes up worldwide
yeah,
to
priorities.
who we are, priorities,
Yeah.
what we're doing here. Our real priorities is
Asking some existential questions.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. People really started asking some questions like, what am I doing with my life?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I with?
Right.
Am I happy?
Yeah.
Where am I in my life?
Is this job fulfilling me? Like,
Is a job? Yeah. What's going on with the governments? How do they run us? You can do a whole bunch of research on that.
yes.
You know.
Go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. It gave people a little bit of a break to
Okay, I'm not stressed
refresh.
out. Yeah.
Well, they're probably plenty stressed out.
Stress, but yeah.
But you had a bit of a reset.
You have more time.
Kind of a life reset to really figure out where you are.
Yeah. It's that age of Aquarius.
Oh.
I think that was like I feel like this is kind of off the topic and a little esoteric, but
That's okay. This is a vulnerability episode.
right. It's kind of let's just say it's ironic or it's interesting that COVID happened right as we were kind of entering this new age
Mm-hmm.
of information, the new age of like spiritual awakenings and things like that. It was almost like a prophecy happening almost. It's weird to kind of think of it like that, but it's like, why did that happen at that specific year, right as we're ushering in a new age, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know.
It's curious to think about.
Interesting, yeah. All right, well, I think we've kind of talked enough about this topic.
You've been vulnerable enough.
Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you guys have any stories about vulnerability, or if you have any comments that you'd like to leave pertaining to the topic, go ahead and drop some. We definitely like to read those.
Yeah.
See who's listening to us and what your vibe is.
Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Later.
All right.